Hey everybody, Ari Henning here, high above Lake Elsinore in Southern California with the 2026 Kawasaki KLE500 ABS SE. This is a all-new lightweight ADV from Team Green. It's joining a segment of the market that has been very popular and is frankly full of a lot of bikes at this point. And those machines run the gamut from being pretty hardcore off-road oriented bikes to being more tame, road-oriented, kind of do-it-all, almost sport tourers. So with the KLE500, my goal today is to figure out where it fits in that spectrum of lightweight adventure bikes and who it's appropriate for. Before we do that, I want to do a walk around on the motorcycle so we can understand some of the hardware and some of the specs. So let's get into that. Now, as I said before, this is the SE, and there is a bunch that is shared between the base bike and the SE. The wheels, we got a 21-inch front and a 17-inch rear. They are spoke, they are tube-type tires. Those are the IRC Trail Winners, which are kind of a 50-50 tire. You got the same suspension. It is a KYB 43mm inverted fork. The fork is not adjustable. The shock does have adjustable preload, but that's it. Both bikes are powered by the same engine, which also powers the Ninja 500 and the Z and the Eliminator. It is a 451cc parallel twin. Makes about 51 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. Very curious to see how it performs in this bike, which is meant to do pretty much everything. You've got this wide tapered aluminum handlebar. It is actually from DID. You've got handguards, you've got a windscreen that is adjustable, and you've got the LED headlight and turn signals, some of which are specific to the SE. And I will describe all that once we hop in the saddle, which I should point out is 34.3 inches off the deck, which is to say pretty high. I believe the CRF300L Rally might be the only bike that's got a higher seat height, which is a little weird because if we go down here, that belly pan is pretty low to the ground. In fact, it's only 7.3 inches off the ground. That's not a lot of ground clearance. So very curious to see how this motorcycle actually performs in a variety of terrains and riding conditions. I've got a pretty fun ride planned here along the South Main Divide Road, which is a twisty mountain road that turns into some dirt. So we might get these tires a little dirty and explore what this bike can do as far as off-road goes, since that is frankly part of the ADV mandate. So I'm gonna pull on my helmet, hop on the bike, and let's go. There are two versions to this bike. There's the base model that retails for $6,599, and then there is this bike, the SE, which is $7,499, so $7,500. And what you get with the SE is you get this taller windscreen, which is adjustable. You get the larger skid plate. You get these sturdier handguards. They look to be the exact same thing that was on the Sherpa that I rode late last year. You also get LED turn signals, and of course you get this TFT dash, which is a very familiar piece of equipment because we've seen it before on the Versys 650, on the Ninja. And this is a tall, narrow bike. The handlebar is really wide. It's also elevated, and the seat is kind of scooped. So definitely have the bars up. Definitely feel like you're sitting down in this motorcycle as opposed to on top of it in the attack position. And I think that sort of is like our first indicator that this may be more of the road-oriented, sport touring almost, end of the adventure bike category. It's also a bit on the heavy side, 428 pounds according to Zach's daily rider scales with a full tank of gas. And I have ridden this bike a little bit already, enough to get some fuel figures, so I do know that that 4.2 gallon tank will be good for over 200 miles of range. I was averaging about 50 miles per gallon, primarily with freeway riding. It's not a super smooth bike. There are some vibrations already at 4,500 RPM. This is a 180-degree parallel twin, so it's not a 270-degree like the CF Moto. It's the same engine design that they've got in the Versys and in the Ninja, so the pistons go like this, and what you end up with there is quite a bit of vibration. Vibration creeps into the foot pegs at about 4,500 RPM, starts to move into the tank sides, and then it starts to move into the grips. All the way up, like at 6,500 RPM, it's in the handlebars, so it's unavoidable. That being said, they do have rubber mounted masts, and they did do rubber mounting on the foot peg bracket, so they are trying to quell it. It is a counterbalanced engine. And then power wise, because it's more or less the same state of tune, it doesn't have a whole lot of mid-range. Like when you open the throttle in the lower RPM range, it's not like a ton of roll-on potential. It does make more power above 7,500 RPM, but it is a capable and flexible engine, at least as far as on-road. Speaking of roads, we are getting into this really excellent ridgetop road here that is quite bumpy, which is where ADV bikes tend to shine with long stroke suspension. It is sprung and damped on the firm side, so it is a lot firmer than bikes tend to be in this category. Now I will point out that I am 185 pounds, probably 210 with gear on. I've got a full toolkit in the backpack here, so if you're a heavier rider, it might work well for you. But from my perspective, You feel every little bump in the road, which isn't super comfortable. On the flip side, it's supportive. So when you grab the brake, the fork doesn't dive, doesn't just like slam to the bottom or run through the stroke, but it is non-adjustable. So if you don't like it, you're kind of screwed. Let's hit some potholes here. Yeah, it's a little jarring on some of those hard edge bumps. The wind protection is pretty adequate. It's got this tall windscreen. It definitely blocks the breeze off of your shoulders in a big way. And I really like that these are clear so you can see the trail, the road below you. It's adjustable 55 millimeters vertically, and this is in the lowest position. The adjustment on it, unfortunately, requires tools. You have to bust out a hex key, which is in the toolkit, but then you have to get into these bolt heads that are way back here. And when I did it, I actually found that it was easier to remove the windshield and then move the brackets, which I have to say is incredibly inconvenient and unfortunate that you have to not only use tools, but they're difficult to do so. Going through corners that are sandy like this and kind of not really worrying about traction because you got some pretty chunky tires, that's reassuring. I wouldn't necessarily want to do this on a Ninja 500. That's where the extra suspension stroke and the upright riding position and the more off-road oriented tires really start to pay dividends. Brap. So we still have to find out how well this motorcycle works in the dirt. And lo and behold, we've got Wildemore OHV. Going to stop and confirm that my ABS is off. You do need to come to a stop. So you push the button once and it blinks, and then you have to push it and hold it down. And then once it goes solid, it's off. This is not an off-road front active ABS system. Both front and rear wheels are off at the moment. Okie doke, we got a series of trails here. The engine is exactly the same as in the Ninja. So it's funny that an engine that works so well as a sport bike is also doing this. Frankly, it's fairly tractable. It does feel like first gear, you have to rev a little bit high, and second gear, you end up working the clutch on this 15 to 20 mile an hour stuff. Oh, wow, that was a very hard bottom. Okay, we are finding the limits, folks. That's why we came back here. But on this hard pack, the tires are working well. I mean, I'm navigating these ruts. The bike is super well balanced. I really love the wide handlebars off-road. It's really nice. And the foot pegs are grippy and in a good position. So I'm gonna put a big green check mark in the box for off-road ergonomics because I really like this setup. The suspension is stiff, but I'm still able to bottom it. And I think that's just a function of the fact that it's not like full off-road bike stroke, but this is what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to understand what is this bike capable of. And I think that this is honestly as quote unquote extreme as anyone's gonna wanna do on their KLE500. The rear brake off-road is quite grabby. It definitely is hard to modulate. So it just locks up. And with the character of the engine, you really got to have your finger on the clutch or else it stalls. So it takes some getting used to. I'd like a little bit more suspension to avoid bottoming, but frankly, with a 428-pound curb weight, it's bound to happen. It's just, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, we're sliding, oh boy. Oh, and we're stalled. Whew. This is where the tall seat height becomes a problem. When you come to a stop in a place like that and you have to get your feet down. So 34.3 inches. I've still got a bend in my knee. I'm 5'11", inseam's like 32, 33. So on flat, it's not bad. But when you're in stuff like that, where you need to like reach your foot out, that's where seat height becomes a problem. And the fact that on this bike, it doesn't correlate to a ton of ground clearance is like a little perplexing. So those are my thoughts in a nutshell, people. A lot of sweaty, a little dusty, pretty satisfied because frankly, that was a fun day. I mean, we got to ride so many different terrains, from the highway to get down here to fun twisty back road to eventually some OHV, some dirt. That's what the ADV mandate is all about. It's about having a Swiss Army knife to get all of these things done. But when you boil it down, what we're trying to do today is figure out where this bike fits. And I will say that it is probably toward the more street bias side of the spectrum. If you saw the off-road stuff I was doing and you thought, man, I want to do more of that, that's what I'm into, then this probably isn't the bike for you. It'll do it, but it's not exactly comfortable doing it. And frankly, you should probably avoid some of the obstacles that I went over. Oh, wow. If you want to ride off-road, then the CF Moto. It's $1,000 less than the SE. It's got adjustable suspension. It's got an engine with more torque and better character. It's got adjustable brake levers. It's already got the TFT dash. It's a better bike off-road, but not as good a bike on-road. And if you're watching the stuff I did off-road and you're like, I'm never going to do that, I just want to be on pavement, then this bike is a good fit. It trots down the highway. It's great on a twisty back road because of that taut suspension. It's got 200 miles worth of range. It is a very good road-oriented ADV. I will say that if that's your mandate for an ADV, you should also look at Honda's NX500 because it's only a little bit more expensive and a little bit heavier, and it has a lower seat height and a bigger tank and a much smoother engine. This bike, if it had arrived 5 years ago, I think would have grabbed a lot of market share because it's affordable, relatively speaking, especially compared to like a middleweight ADV, and it is plenty capable. But the market has evolved and we have bikes that are better off-road, so it doesn't necessarily fit in that respect. And this is all to say that choice is yours. It really depends on what you want to do with the bike and what your budget is. So hopefully this review gave you a pretty comprehensive understanding of where this motorcycle fits in and what it's capable of and what its pros and cons are. If you want to learn more, you can scan the QR code on your screen. That'll take you over to my full first ride review on Common Tread. And you can join in the comment section there, which I expect is going to be pretty boisterous. But yeah, appreciate you watching. Take care.